Joe Hopkins here, and today I'm going over how you can take your budget guitar and make it better. Because the truth is, look, man, with anything in life, you can spend time or you can spend money. And a lot of us just don't have money. I don't have money. A lot of you guys don't have money. You can take any guitar to a good luthier and they will make it pretty close to excellent, right? Most guitars, even the budget ones, are fairly well built, but there's certain things that make them better. And since we can't afford to take it to a luthier, and a lot of these budget guitars, you know, they're saving on labor costs. They skip that last step of setting them up, making sure they're right. You're buying them direct from a factory, so it's not some guy at a store that set it up, you know. And some companies, they do setups, like Hard Luck Kings or AIO, Xavier, you know, and a lot of times the guitar does come pretty well set up. But some of those companies, the cheaper ones, they don't do setups. Like, you know, you get it. It could be better. Now, I'd love to be the guy who could teach you how to do these things, except teaching is not my forte. I'm terrible at it. And there are already a pile of YouTube channels that'll teach you how to do these things. But I can tell you what to look for. And I can tell you they're pretty easy to do. I can tell you what you need to do and why. And then you can look up how to do it if you want to. Right? The first thing, every guitar comes with one of them little Allen keys, usually a couple little tools. That's for the truss rod. This one's up here. That's a truss rod cover. Some of them, it's down here. Some of them, it's literally, you have to take the pick guard off to get to it. Some Strat style guitars are like that. But on most guitars, it's up here. And if it's, you know, acoustic guitars, it's usually in the body and right up from the sound hole at the bottom of the neck. It's easy to get to. Most of them are easy to get to on most guitars. That is to change how much your neck bows in or out. And that's kind of important. You can get the action a little bit better if you get it straighter, that kind of thing. If you got some dead frets, where your dead frets are can tell you if you need to move it in or out. And, you know, if you change the gauge of your strings, that can change how much bow is in the neck. Because it's the strings, it's the tension of the strings pulling against the neck, right? You get that neck perfectly straight without strings, and then you put strings on it, and over the course of about a day or so, it'll bow in a little bit because of the tension on the strings. Then you have to adjust it back some. So how to adjust that and exactly what you're looking for. Like I said, man, there are lots of tutorials out there. I'd love to be the guy to tell you that. I'm just not good at teaching, like I said. But that's one of the adjustments you can make. Another one you can make is string height. Usually it's adjusted at the bridge or the saddle. Intonation is adjusted at the saddle. If you notice it as you're playing your guitar, you know, it's out of tune the further up you go. The intonation's off. Like we play that low E and your tuner says E, play it at the 12th fret, exactly in the middle. That little, most of them have 2 dots there. That should also, on your tuner, read E. If that doesn't, your intonation's off. Same for all the strings. It should be the same open as it is at the 12th fret on your tuner. If it's not, adjust your intonation. That's usually Phillips head screwdriver, usually. But where you adjust your intonation, how you do it, depends on what guitar you have, right? This one is Gibson style, you know, like SG. And you actually have to, you know, wind down the strings, loosen it up, and move it out of the way because the adjustment is up here for some reason, right? On Fender style guitars like Strats and whatnot, the adjustment's on this side, so you don't have to do that. You can, you know. But it's different on different guitars. These are things you can do to make your guitar better. The biggest thing is also, like, those are easy. One of the biggest things can also be one of the most difficult things. Usually having sharp fret ends isn't as big a deal these days. Most of the guitars I bought, they all have pretty good frets. You don't have them sticking out at the ends and snagging on your fingers. If you do, you can learn how to file your fret ends. And that's something a person can learn to do. It's one of the slightly more complicated things, but most people, I think, are capable of doing it. But that's usually not a big problem with newer guitars. I haven't really run into it much these days. One thing you do run into is fret leveling. And that's where, if you get your frets very level, you can get your action lower and your guitar will play better. You'll like it better. Now, if you're not that concerned about having a really low action, it's maybe not as important. But if you want a really low action, having level frets enables that. Guitars these days, even budget ones, are a lot better with that than they used to be. There was a time when you'd buy a cheap guitar and you'd have high frets, significantly high. Now it's not as much, but you can buy the tools you need to do that on Amazon, and it's not that hard to do. You can buy one of those little fret level gauges to check your frets, find out which ones are not level. I can give you the basic rundown. They sell fret files. I don't exactly, fret leveling files on Amazon. You can buy them other places. I like Amazon. And it's basically a perfectly flat, block with kind of like sandpaper on it, or a file on one side. And it's just meant to file the frets. And what can be kind of once you find if you have high frets, you can just take a Sharpie, put a real thin mark across the top, right? And of each of your frets, and then file them until it scrapes that Sharpie off. And you'll see if you have a fret that's lower than the others, you have to file down to it. The frets that are higher than the others, that Sharpie files off first and quicker. There are better tutorials than what I'm describing. But fret leveling isn't a hugely difficult thing to do, and it can make your guitar play a lot better because then you can lower the action. You see, when you're lowering your action, you lower it and then try playing it. And then you lower it and then play around with it. And you keep doing that till you find the point at which you got dead frets. It's hanging up, it's buzzing, it doesn't sound right. Then you raise it back up a little bit. Right? A bridge like this one just has the two adjustments. You look at a Stratocaster, you can adjust each string individually. This is the Gibson style. You're adjusting the height on this side and this side. So you can fiddle with it to find that sweet spot where you get the action where you want it and you're not getting any buzzing or dead frets. But you kind of have to go back and forth, raise this one a little, lower that side a little, and experiment with it, right? But if you can level your frets, once they're leveled, you gotta crown them. And you can get a crowning tool, and that just, you want to tape stuff off so you don't scratch anything. But then it's kind of like a file that has a little groove in it so you can crown your frets. And then you polish them. And they have fret polishing kits on Amazon. And these are things that the tools don't cost a lot of money, and it doesn't take long to learn how to do, that once you can do, you can make any budget guitar better. Just learning basic stuff like that, setups and fret work, just a little bit, you can make any guitar really, really good. You want to make it sound better, you can replace electronics, you can replace pickups. And honestly, good pickups don't necessarily cost a lot. There are expensive pickups, but there are ones out there that are very good that aren't terribly expensive. And, I like Guitar Fetish. They got that quick plug system so you can replace the electronics and the pickups and not have to do any soldering, except for maybe the ground wire, depending on what kind of guitar. For instance, on this, the ground wire is just pressed in. So to replace it, you'd have to pull the saddle out, or bridge. I forget which one it's pressed into, and then you put the ground wire in there, push the little mount back in, and it kind of just presses between the mount and the wood, right, and holds it there, and that grounds it. On a Strat, it's going to be soldered onto one of, onto something, what is it, the tremolo or bridge or something like that. So some guitars you have to solder one wire. Soldering isn't particularly hard. It's an art to get good at, but you don't have to be great at it to do a guitar. It doesn't have to be pretty work, it just has to be effective. So even if you don't want to go with a quick plug thing like that, a soldering kit on Amazon is like 20 or 30 bucks. And then you could change your pickups to your heart's content. You can get wiring diagrams on how to do all that kind of stuff. You can, with a little bit of ingenuity, a little bit of education, and just a little bit of money, make any budget guitar better. So find the guitar that you really like and see if you can make it the best guitar possible. I'm using this one as an example because this was a kit guitar. So I had to do all the setup. I had to put in everything myself. It came pre-wired. All the wiring was done. I just had to put all the stuff in, the pickups and the electronics. I had to put them all in, but they were already wired up. But in general, you can make any guitar better. And it's cheaper to get a guitar that's cheap and to make it better than it is to buy the expensive model. And you're also making it, to a great degree, your own. And when you're done setting it up, it should be exactly the way you want it to be. When somebody else does a setup, they're doing what you request. If you want low action, high action, this, that, what kind of pickups. When you do it yourself, you know it's how you want it to be. And if it's not exactly how you want it to be, you've learned how to fiddle with it and adjust it to get it right for you. And that's a good thing to do. And like I said, it saves money because now you can buy a cheap guitar and make it really, really good, right? Spend less, get more. That's the idea, but that means you got to put in the work, buddy. And for any of you guys out there that have a couple bucks that you don't really want to put in the work, you don't have to. If you got the money, you can pay someone else to, or you can just buy something that's exactly the way you want it right off the shelf. But for us cheap bastards, learn a little bit of guitar work, and it can be fun too. It's a hobby, right? For all of us that are into guitars, sometimes we like fiddling with our guitars. It's good to learn. And just do a search on YouTube for whatever it is you're trying to learn how to do. I can't teach you. I'm not good at that, but I can tell you should learn it. So anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, leave a comment. Tell me if it was good or not. And here in a sec, there's an end screen. Check out my playlists, right? There'll be playlists there. Reviews on various guitars, including this one. That's in there. And some songs. Check out my songs. And I'll see you guys in the next video, all right? I love you guys. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.